Good morning. Thank you for being here today. We have two speakers today. The first one is Jennifer Flaman, who is the Deputy City Manager for Community Services, who will provide an introduction, and Ben Grady, one of our data scientists who developed Lighthouse, who will demonstrate how the app works. Afterwards, we'll take any questions, and then we have a few people available here who will be available to help you try the app yourselves. I now invite Jennifer up to say a few words.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today to help launch Lighthouse, a new tool to identify and track hate symbols. Everyone within our city has the right to feel a sense of safety and belonging. We stand against anti-Asian, anti-Black, anti-immigrant, anti-Indigenous, anti-Muslim, and anti-Semitic hate. If you find yourself part of the LGBTQ2S+ community, the BIPOC community, and any of our religious, cultural, immigrant, or marginalized communities, we stand with you. Unfortunately, we continue to see those in our community who don't share that view and turn to hate, bigotry, extremism, and racism. It's not lost on me that we're here together on January 6th, 2 years since political violence took place at the U.S. Capitol. Extremist, hateful, and conspiratorial beliefs that animated that attack continue to infect civil society. Words matter, images are powerful. And these hate symbols can attack our sense of belonging and do considerable harm. Together with community groups and other law enforcement agencies, the City of Edmonton plays an important role in identifying these symbols and taking a stand against those who use these symbols to frighten and intimidate others. In 2021, City Council approved an update to the city's Public Places bylaw, adding hate symbols as a form of harassment. Lighthouse is the next step in helping our enforcement officers shine a light on these hateful symbols that blight our community. Our enforcement officers are committed to the safety of all Edmontonians, which includes protecting vulnerable and marginalized people. This new tool will help our officers address hate symbols so they can be identified, tracked, and removed. I see this as another step forward in our efforts to ensure Edmonton is inclusive and a city that condemns hate in all its forms. I'd like to thank the City of Edmonton team who worked with a lot of passion to develop this application. Your hard work and dedication will not only make it easier for frontline staff to identify and track hate symbols, but over time will go a long way in making Edmonton safer and more inclusive. I'd also like to thank the Anti Defamation League for their partnership on this project. Further, a thanks to Oren Siegel, Vice President of the Center on Extremism with the ADL, for his kind words with respect to this project. We're extremely grateful for the ADL's guidance and support through the development of Lighthouse and look forward to continuing working together. I'd like to conclude by thanking our city enforcement officers and the Capital City Cleanup Graffiti Removal Program for the diligence and dedication you show in helping remove hate symbols from our community. You play an important part as we look to build a more inclusive Edmonton. I will now turn it over to Ben Grady, lead data scientist on the Lighthouse project, who will provide a demonstration of Lighthouse. Ben?
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us to learn about Lighthouse today. My name is Ben Grady. I'm a data scientist working in the Service, Innovation and Performance branch here at the City. Along with my colleagues, Chris Andrzejczuk and Aisha Masood from the Data Science and Research team, we've worked in close collaboration with the folks from Community Standards and Neighbourhoods and with our partners at the Anti Defamation League to design and build Lighthouse in-house from the ground up. I'm shortly going to do a technical demonstration of the software that we have developed to give you an idea of how this technology will help the city to understand the proliferation of hate symbols in our communities in Edmonton. After I've finished, there will be an opportunity for a Q&A session and also an opportunity for you to try the software for yourselves. So the overarching goal of Lighthouse is to provide a technology solution to track the proliferation of hate symbols. We do this through several components that have been named after components of a lighthouse. So the first is called Lantern. This is a phone application that we have designed to be as simple as possible for our busy frontline staff, including peace officers, to be able to take a photograph of a potential hate symbol that they find on the streets. I stress the point potential. They don't need to know it's a hate symbol. They just need to have an inkling that it might be a hate symbol. They can take a picture of it, and it will upload to a central database. The next piece of the project is called Gallery. This is a web application that is designed for hate symbols experts, typically situated in the office, to review the photographs that have been taken by the frontline staff, to decide whether there is a hate symbol present in the image, and to assign what type of hate symbol that is. Thirdly, we have Watch. This is a dashboard designed for decision makers to see when and where symbols are showing up, and to essentially see emerging patterns and trends, and to give them the eyes and ears that they need to see where the problem's happening. I'm going to jump into the demo in 1 second, but before I do so, I've got 2 notes to make. Firstly, I will note that the majority of the data points that are being shown in this demonstration are from the Capital City Cleanup Team within Community Standards and Neighborhoods. The data were captured as part of the graffiti removal program. As graffiti was removed from the streets, images were captured of that graffiti along with the date and the location. Among these images of graffiti, a number have been flagged as being possibly hate-related, and so we've gone back 2 years and extracted these possibly hate-related images from that database and put them into Lighthouse. I've got to stress that these images still need to be vetted and identified within Lighthouse. We've only just put them in there. And thus the data points presented today are just intended to show the functionality of Lighthouse and not intended to give an accurate picture of where hate symbols are showing up in Edmonton right now. They still need to go through that process. The existing graffiti removal database was very manually intensive, and Lighthouse offers a potential to simplify that process and provide efficiencies in data entry and reporting. That's note number 1. Note number 2, I will be putting up, we're looking at real data, so I will be putting up an image of a hate symbol. I know this is very difficult for some people to see, but I'm not going to apologize. This is the nature of the problem at hand, so I just want to make that clear from the beginning. Okay, so with that, I'm going to jump over to the demonstration. So firstly, it's a little bit difficult to show a phone application on a screen, so you will get an opportunity to try it for yourselves afterwards. We've gone for simplicity with the phone application. Our peace officers and frontline staff are very busy, and we want to make it as seamless as possible. So they're greeted with a screen where they can review photographs that have already been taken, and if they press this plus sign, it opens an interface that gives them access to the camera. I'm not going to press it on my computer, but on a phone, if you press this camera button, it takes you to the phone camera. You can simply take a photo of the potential hate symbol. Down below, the location that the photograph is being taken is automatically detected, but there's an opportunity to adjust it if the GPS isn't quite correct on the phone. It also records the date and time and the user that's making that data entry. When the user presses save, this will upload to the database, and it will then be in the Lighthouse system. So that is Lantern, the first application. I'll switch over to the second application, which is called Gallery. This is the opportunity, this is the web application that allows hate symbols experts on the back end to have an interface where they can review photographs that have been submitted of possible hate symbols. Remember, these are not definitely hate symbols, they're possible hate symbols. And they have the opportunity to firstly decide whether there is indeed a hate symbol in the image, and secondly to label what type of image it is. We have a two-step process here where one person will label the image and a second peer will review it and basically approve whether they agree with it. There can be some back and forth if there's a disagreement. These are sometimes complex images that are not that straightforward. Thirdly, there's an option if it doesn't fit into a category that we know about, it can be submitted for external review by some of the folks, some of our partners at the ADL and other organizations that have a deeper knowledge of hate symbols. So I'm going to just choose one example here to show you folks. Just a reminder, this is going to show a real hate symbol. I hate to do it, but this is just the reality of the problem at hand. So this is an image that was taken just a month or two ago, just a few blocks from here. It's a real image taken by one of our peace officers. So when the hate symbol expert goes through this process, they're going to firstly decide if there's a hate symbol. In this case, it's rather obvious. They will draw a box around the part of the image that has the hate symbol present. And this is where our partnership with the ADL comes in. They've provided their extensive hate symbol database to us, and this is what is available to label these images. So in this case, it's a swastika, and so it can be labeled as such. Then they scroll down. They can submit a comment, so there's this opportunity for dialogue if there's any uncertainty about what is in the image. And then usually they would submit it for review, and this will kick over to the peer reviewer, and it kind of continues the process. If it's a very difficult image, there's also this submit for external review option. I'm not going to show the process of peer review right now because it's just a little in the weeds, but that's also part of this gallery application. Thirdly, I'll switch over now to the watch application, and this is the dashboard that is designed to show when and where hate symbols are showing up in Edmonton. Now, I'll just remind you right now, these are historical images of possible hate symbols identified by the capital city graffiti cleanup. So this is not where hate symbols are showing up in Edmonton. This is where we've loaded historical data points that have been flagged as possibly being hate symbols. As such, excuse me, the top left visualization here shows a heat map of where the images are showing up on a map. The top right shows a breakdown of what type of hate symbols are in the data set, and right now you'll see most of them are unlabeled. That's because we've just loaded these images in and it's still got to go through the process. Finally, on the bottom here we have a timeline that shows the number of hate symbols or potential hate symbols that have been identified per week. And you can zoom in here and start to kind of see the patterns on the map depending on a period of time. So this is the kind of intelligence that that we've designed for decision makers to be able to see when and where symbols are showing up, are new symbols entering the fray, and take appropriate action. That concludes the demonstration. I'd like to hand it back to Crystal to go into the Q&A section. Thank you very much for your attention.
Great, thanks. I will invite Jen back up, as well as Ben, for any questions. And we have Keith Scott here, who is the Director of Complaints and Investigations.
Yes.
Is the app specifically internal, or is it, I assume it's not open to the public, is that correct? It's for peace officers specifically, or law enforcement?
Yeah, it's for our enforcement officers. And again, this is just our pilot. We are at the very beginning stages, but maybe for the particulars, I'll get one of our folks to respond.
Yes, so the app is internal facing only right now. The intent is to use it to analyze, determine trends, look for how we can deploy our officers in a more efficient and effective manner. The Anti Defamation League in discussions with them, suggested that it's not a good idea to be able to release this kind of database, out to the public. So that's why it's an internal-facing project right now.
Have the ability to, obviously there's a camera app, and this might be specific to you, but is there the ability to bring in images outside of that as well, that maybe somebody posts to social media?
The application has the ability to deal with anything where there's an image and a location and a time. We haven't designed it specifically for social media right now because it may be missing that location piece. So yeah.
What precautions did you need to take to make sure that this, like the symbols and the gathering, is used for good and the purposes that you designed this app for, and not used for nefarious purposes?
So I think with all tools, there is the possibility that it will not be used for good. What we are relying on, though, are decades of this database being in place, and the support and leadership and mentorship of the ADL to help us work through any of these unintended consequences.
And how did the partnership start with the ADL?
Well, there was a question around what is the hate landscape like in Edmonton. You're aware of our anti-racism strategy and the work that we're doing to be a more inclusive and diverse and safe community. And so with that work, we were asked to find a database. And in our exploration, we came across the ADL's database, which is the largest in the world. And then we reached out to them and started the conversation.
And you were in New York, I think, presenting, is that correct?
I was not, but we did have staff.
What was that?
I'll have to refer to our team.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We got invited by the ADL to go down to their annual conference, which is the largest anti-hate conference in the world, and essentially to demonstrate Lighthouse, since it's been a partnership with them. So we had very much a similar kind of booth set up where we had computers and phones to demonstrate the application to the folks attending that conference, and Chris Andreychuk and myself attended that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is basically a information and data gathering app, correct? At what point, even though it's taken by police officers and peace officers, at what point does this then get forwarded to the police? Or is there a point where that happens?
Yes, so as you're right, the app is meant for an internal facing for our information. We work in close collaboration with the Edmonton Police Service on dealing with hate, on dealing with graffiti, and looking to try and reduce those. So our continued collaboration with them includes that sharing piece of being able to help, deal with reducing graffiti and hate across the city.
Are they able to access the data?
So yes, we are in communication with them. We have offered this to the Edmonton Police Service to say here is a database, here is some information, and we'll continue to have those good conversations moving forward.
And how does it work currently? Can you just remind us what the current process of collecting data on hate symbol, how it is right now, and how would it be different with that system?
So right now, the way we've collected it has been through our graffiti removal program and reporting on our internal systems. So we have our internal databases where officers are in the field. When they come across these types of issues, they would record it in the system. This database allows us to expand, one, the knowledge of what's out there. Two, it allows us to see the trends in the great mapping process that's available. And it also allows it to be more convenient and easy for the officer in the field, instead of having to come back and put it into our database, which can be manually cumbersome at times. This is a very easy process of using it on your phone, has clear processes put in place.
And,
sorry, go ahead.
And it's just peace officer for now?
Yes, it's City of Edmonton enforcement officers, so that would include,
would you guys consider expanding that to ETS employees or police, or just broadening the scope of or the number of people that might be able to, not opening it to the whole public, but
Yeah, certainly, and we want to be able to make sure that we're taking the right steps. So the first steps is our enforcement officers that are currently dealing with this type of issue, we're dealing with that. Then we would start to bring in potentially City of Edmonton staff, Edmonton Police Service, any other agencies that we feel would be valuable in ensuring that this product and program is successful.
The main goal of the app is to identify the symbols of hate around the city, put a heat map. But is there another goal? Like, is this going to help, station more officers downtown if there's more symbols downtown? Like, what are the other goals of this app?
Well, there's several goals, but you're highlighting the most important one, and that is, as the database grows, it gives us that opportunity for us to be able to analyze, to see the trends, and that allows us to be able to deploy officers, programs, services in those areas to try and reduce whatever is happening. That is essentially the goal. The second part of that too is that in working with this, we've developed some really great partnerships, obviously with the ADL, but with the province and other internal and external stakeholders to start to have those conversations on how we can do things better, how we can change our processes, how we can change the way we communicate. That is also another big portion of why I feel that this program and the Lighthouse project is so important.
Is the end goal ultimately the direct, arrest or detainment of a group or an individual that is making these, hate symbols in the city? Like, is that the main objective at the end?
Well, I would hope that there would be some accountability on anybody that is doing this to our community and to the members of our community. So if that is a goal that comes to fruition, then that is a benefit. But ultimately, it's about us doing what we can to educate, communicate, and collaborate with the community on reducing hate symbols.
Probably simplistic and obvious, but is there data that shows there are more hate crimes in areas where there are hate symbols?
That's a good question. I can't answer that in particular. I know that the Edmonton Police Service and the City of Edmonton do work collaboratively when issues like that do arise. They'll certainly reach out and ask us what we've been seeing, and we would help in any investigation that they're going through.
Perhaps this app is going to be able to help correlate those two things.
Yes.
With the pilot project as it stands right now, do you have a timeline on full rollout or when that may occur?
Well, it's being rolled out shortly here. We've trained the officers to go and use the app, and so now the next step of this will be the expert community coming together to start to define and label some of these. So it is being rolled out, in its current state, as in small steps. And we don't want to take too big of a leap and not have successful. So I don't have a timeline necessarily on how long this will take.
is there going to be any aggregate data that's going to be released to the public? Like, how will we know that this is working?
So I think as we move through the program, the idea or the intention would be to release what information we can. The city is a big proponent of open data. We've always looked to provide that transparency. The information that is released, though, is going to be what we're going to have to decide internally as to how that is going to be done.
Is the fear that releasing too much is going to encourage some people to commit more of those acts?
There's always those types of unintended consequences, for sure. And that was the intention of having the program internal facing only at this particular time.
How unique is this program?
So unique. We're actually the first in Canada partnering with this organization. And what we're doing is we're being very transparent and collaborative. So as we've been working in this pilot, we've had other organizations and entities come to us and are interested in collaborating with us. So the more people who are involved, the greater uptake we have, the more we can put in the database, the more we'll have a better understanding of the hate landscape. And I do want to provide a little bit of scope and scale. I don't want people to be scared that this is something super rampant. But even just one symbol that makes someone feel unwelcome and intimidated is one symbol too much. However, over the last 4 years, we have been tracking, and we're averaging around 50 complaints that we receive a year. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context about the size and scale of this issue. But what will be different to the earlier questions about how do we collect now versus how will this database improve our collection and our analysis is that before it was cumbersome, now we're going to be able to see some trends, some hot spotting, and that will better inform our response and our resourcing.
Someone actually dedicated to seeing those symbols as they come in? Like, is that their job daily, or how do you then go about the process of defining potential hate symbols? I have a follow-up question to that too, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry.
I'll let the team answer that technical question.
Yeah, we are developing that team right now. We have certainly some internal resources that deal with this on a consistent basis, working with the Edmonton Police Service. And we're starting to look at the great organizations and external stakeholders that we have that would provide us with some of that expert knowledge that we may not have. So we're developing that team right now to just make sure that we have a really comprehensive and inclusive group that can identify what truly is a hate symbol and then start to move down that route.
And that was my other question about, some are more obvious than others, so what goes into the criteria of defining what is a hate symbol?
And that's what hopefully this expert group will start to define, because you're right, some are really easy and some aren't, and some are numbers and some are written statements, and so those are the things that we don't have the knowledge the expertise at this particular moment, and that's why we rely on our external stakeholders to bring that expertise in and to work in collaboration on identifying those.
Would a gang symbol, and you might not know this yet, and I don't, but would a gang symbol, for instance, a local gang symbol, be considered a hate symbol?
We're going through that, and that's conversations we'll have with the Edmonton Police Service. Obviously, a gang symbol generally is tied towards an area, identifying their area necessarily. But those are the questions that we need to answer, and we need the expert group to sit down and decide whether or not that truly is a hate symbol or not.
Where are you drawing from for this local expert group?
From stakeholders. So, there's a number of organizations. To name a few would be the Chinese Benevolent Association, the Edmonton Jewish community, indigenous organizations. Those are the individuals, the experts that would be able to help us look to see whether or not that, and identify whether or not that is a hate symbol.
This was an internal project, so obviously there's a cost attached to it. Do we know what that is, and is there cost recovery potential with selling the app to other cities, other areas, other places?
I don't have the cost necessarily. I would say that it was internal resources that were certainly used, and so there was a little external cost. As to the potential of the program, it's more of a wait and see. I certainly want us to focus in on, let's make this the best, greatest program there is, and then when that comes to fruition, then we'll determine whether or not it's a product that we can share, and do whatever we need to in order to help other municipalities move forward on this.
You look outside to see if there's a place you could have bought the app before you proceeded with it, or is this that unique?
I'll let them.
To our knowledge, there's not an existing solution for this. We did a scan, we didn't find anything, and hence we developed it inside.
My apologies if somebody already asked. Is there going to be a soft launch, a hard launch, a test period? Is there a timeline set for the app?
Yeah, so we are working through our pilot. So we are coming to you very early on in our stages, and we're going to let this, I think, more organically grow. We're going to just assess our progress, and it'll evolve over time. And as we have more results, we're just still gathering, the analysis still has to happen. Once we start seeing trends and hot spotting, then we'll be able to provide that information.
Thanks, Jen. So now we have two people here from Data Science and Research who can help you actually demonstrate the app. We have Chris Andrewchuk and Aisha Masood here.